Limbo update of Roblox Souls RNG has been out for a couple of days now, and everyone is trying to figure out, is this actually a good update, or are we just being fooled by this new Limbo world? Today I'm going to be talking about this update and giving my opinion on it, and also showing your guys' opinions as well, and how I believe that it has changed Souls RNG forever. But of course, before we get started, guys, don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe. It is very much appreciated. And also don't forget to join the Discord server where you can stay up to date with all Souls RNG news leaks, share your aura finds, and much more. But with all that being said, guys, let's go ahead and give our opinion and talk about this Limbo update. But okay, guys, we are back here in Roblox Souls RNG, and today is gonna be more of a yapping / talking video. I'm not gonna be doing too much playing the game here today, because we are going to be talking about this Limbo update and if it's actually a good update or not. Pretty much, I'm going to be doing a good, bad, and the ugly of this update. So literally, yeah, there's good parts of this update, the bad parts of this update, and the most ugly parts of this update. First, let's actually start off by seeing what people thought of this update. I did a poll in my Discord server, so I'm going to go ahead and show you guys that right now. So here is the poll in my Discord server, guys. I said, thoughts on the Souls RNG Limbo update. It only got 59 votes. I know that's not a majority of the player base. You know, there's about 30,000 people playing this update, so this is only about 60 votes, 60 including myself. So you guys can see we have 33 votes on people that said good. So 56% of people in my Discord server thought this update was good, and 11 people thought it was bad. So that's 90% of people, and 25% of people, a quarter of this poll, people thought that this Limbo update could have been better. Now, that was just my Discord server opinion on the update. This poll right here, the guys you're seeing right now, here is the official Souls RNG Discord community's thoughts on the update. As you guys can see, the poll says, how's the update been so far? So it says, I've been enjoying it, worth the wait in my opinion. Only 14% of people, which was 1,809 people, said that. And then I'm liking it, but I don't think it was worth the wait. 15% of people said that, 2,337 votes right there. And 60%, a whopping 60% people said, I'm liking it a lot, but it's a tad bit confusing. And honestly, I think this is the most perfect way to describe this update. It's really good, but it is very confusing. And 7,863 votes right there. And then 11% of people did not like it, so 1,494 votes right there. And this was a total of 13,203 votes. This Discord has close to 800,000 people, so obviously this is not a very good poll. With a Discord with almost 800,000 people, you would definitely expect way more votes, but this is what we got. And then right below that, we have two more polls right below that. It says follow-up poll. For those of you that didn't like the update, why? I personally put the puzzles are way too hard. I definitely think the puzzles could have been very easier. That was my personal opinion. I think the puzzles should have been a tad bit easier, but yeah, the 51% of people thought that the puzzles were too hard. 7,158 votes right there. And the next one was, there aren't enough hints that make everything easier. 5,300 votes, and 37% of people thought there were not enough hints to make everything easier. And honestly, that is true in a way as well. And then they said lack of newer auras, 1,700 votes right there, which was 12% of people. I think the amount of auras they added for Limbo and the main game were absolutely fine. And then right here it says, since people figured out and gotten into Limbo, what are your thoughts on the update? So 4,589 votes, which is 37% of people, thought it was pretty good, and then 51% of people, which is 6,327 votes, thought it was decent. I put it was decent. I don't think it was the best update in the world, but I thought when I got into Limbo, it's pretty decent. Once you get into Limbo and do the quest, it's pretty decent. And then it says it's not that good. 1,583 people, which is 13% of people, which totaled amount to 12,499 votes. And then we have a couple more polls here as well. It says, what did you like most about the update? And people said the auras. 67% of people said the auras, and honestly, I think that is very true, man. The auras, because man, they did very well in the auras. They did very well in the cutscenes. I believe definitely their strong part of this update was the auras that they put in, and the cutscenes as well. And then we got two more polls right here. You guys can really tell the devs actually wanted to know feedback about this update. They wanted to know if the community actually liked this update. That's why they have all these polls here, I'm pretty sure. So that is a big step for the devs, making that step to actually listen to feedback right here, because people also said, was the puzzle too hard? I put yes, it should have been easier, and looks like most of the people agreed with me, because yeah, I think the puzzles definitely should have been easier, man, because not everybody was able to find this out. Once you joined the game and you got into Limbo, or before you got into Limbo, it was technically impossible. You had to wait till you saw a YouTube video in order to actually get into Limbo. You had to be like the smartest person in the world to know that those symbols had to light up and they had to be in a specific order. It wasn't really fun trying to find it out. It was more kind of like rage inducing trying to figure out the puzzle. So I definitely think it should have been easier, and 63% of people agreed with that here. And then you guys can see what was the hardest part of the puzzle, and I couldn't agree more with this, and it was needing null. Now you're probably wondering, why did you not put the symbols? Because you're talking about how the symbols were very hard. Yes, the symbols were very hard, but once you had that figure out before that, you needed to get null. And for some reason, whenever you need null, it just does not show up, man. Whenever you don't need it, it shows up. It is the most annoying thing in the world. I spent hours upon hours trying to get null. So getting null was definitely the hardest part of the puzzle. It was just very, very annoying, man. And you guys can see 60% of people agreed with that. I personally thought this was a decently good update for the game, guys, and let me go ahead and tell you guys why. But before I talk about that, guys, I know you guys are probably going to say, well, the player count does not reflect the update. And that is very true. You guys are right if you say that, because the player count, I believe the peak of this update was maybe like 35,000. Since then, it has maintained about a 25,000 to 30,000 concurrent player count. But obviously, compared to where this game used to be, that is obviously not very good at all. 30,000 active players, 25,000 active players per day for this update. That is seriously bad. And I really thought maybe this update would have got much more players, but again, I guess Souls RNG, a lot of people do not have interest in it and no more, and rightfully so, because the devs did not update their game for months upon months. So eventually, you know, people are going to lose interest. And of course, this Limbo update is very interesting, and a lot of people got re-interested in the game back again. The game was about at like 13 or 12,000 players. I saw it at 10,000 players at one point, so that is how far this game has dipped, but it has got in itself back up all the way up to 30,000 players. And I think they can re-interest their fan base, because if you guys are not in the Souls RNG Discord, these devs made a promise and they are really going to get it if they do not fulfill this promise. And I'm going to go ahead and show you guys it right now. So that brings me here to the game announcement section of the Souls RNG Discord, guys. I know a lot of people are not in the Souls RNG Discord, or they are banned from the Souls RNG Discord, so they do not know this. The devs here, they made a very serious promise right here. Even though we know they do not stick to their promises, a lot of people have crashed out over time again because they do not stick to their promises. I think if they break this promise, the community will absolutely explode, because it is a very, very big promise, and we hope they intend to keep this promise, because it would do the game very well. I'm about to read this to you guys right now. As you guys can see, XYZ said, update schedule. I'd like to share details about upcoming update and our future update schedule. He says, greetings everyone. After taking a break due to some mental health challenges, I am finally back. I sincerely apologize for the delay in game content updates and the lack of communication during my absence. Thank you to all the players who patiently waited for us. And he did a little sad face after that. And now here's the most important part. He said, let's dive into the update schedule. Updates will be released on the first and third Saturday of each month at 5 p.m. Korean Standard Time, or 3 o'clock a.m. in my time zone. That is absolutely an absurd time for an update, but whatever, as long as they update the game. So as you guys can see, first and third Saturday of each month. So that they're making a pretty big promise here, the first and third Saturday of each month. And then they said right here how the upcoming Limbo update was delayed by 1 week as they needed to finish the visual effects and presentation were being finalized, and it did come out on June 14th 2025 at 3 a.m. so it did come out at the scheduled date, and then you got a sneak peek of the Limbo right here. But once again, going back to the main important part, I believe that the community will be absolutely enraged if they do not stick to this. With how many false promises they have gave, they have to stick to this. They cannot lie about this for like the 500th time for the first and third Saturday of each month. And I'm pretty sure people are going to keep them on their word. You'll be seeing it in the general chat, probably in all the Souls RNG chats. Oh my gosh, are we ready for their update this Saturday, or the first and third Saturday of the month? Are we ready for the update? You know, because hopefully they're seeing that, and hopefully they're seeing that people were actually interested in this Limbo update and people want to see more. And coming back here into the game, guys, looking at Limbo, honestly, yeah, it is a very cool looking place, but honestly, something feels just not right. And of course, when you come into Limbo, it says something does not feel right here. Obviously it does not, but something legit does not feel right. You know, we need to have something like an expansion of Limbo here. You know, right now all we have is Dave's Quest. Maybe on the first Saturday of next next month, which is actually on July 5th. So July 5th, keep that date in mind. That is the first Saturday of July, and that is when they should update the game once again, because I highly doubt they're going to update the game the rest of this month because of how big this Limbo update was. But July 5th, keep that update in your guys' mind. Keep that update day in your guys' mind. If they do not update on that day, then there will be some serious consequences that will be coming their way in terms of the community being mad. But let me finally talk about the good part of this update, guys. So we're going to go through the good, bad, and the ugly of this update. I believe the good and the best part of this update, guys, is that you actually had to play the game. Now, while it was very annoying, you actually for the first time had to play Souls RNG. Who would have thought we would have ever actually had to play the game in order to get to a certain place? Now, this was a very good thing for the game, and it's why I think they actually went up to almost 40,000 players. Once again, that obviously is not a good player count considering they were at 100,000 last summer at around this time. But honestly, I love the fact that you had to play the game. You had to do some quests to get here, some pretty challenging slash annoying quests. I'm not going to call them challenging because they weren't super challenging, but they were certainly very annoying quests, and the reward was getting here to Limbo, man. Once you got here to Limbo, Dave would give you a quest. You had to go back to Souls Island to talk to Lime to do one of the quests, and yeah, you just have to do a bunch of stuff. Again, you have to actually play the game. That's why I think this update was actually very good. That's personally why I feel this update was pretty good, guys. But now let's talk about the bad part of this update, and the bad part of this update is that Limbo is definitely not friendly to newer players. Now, you're going to have newer players come on this game every single day. They're going to see that there was an update. They're going to see that there's a thing called Limbo, and they're going to wonder how to get to it. Then they're going to look it up. They're going to see how to get here, and then they're just going to be completely discouraged because this Limbo update was meant for end game players. I have 34.4 million rolls. You have to roll undefined and nihility. You know how hard that is. If you are a beginner player, you at least need to have a pretty decent glove to roll those auras right there. And yeah, this update is just not beginner friendly at all. I'm not a big fan of that. You know, I believe updates should be beginner friendly. Obviously, this Limbo update was probably intended for end to late game players, but come on, you had to make the beginner players something. You know, make it at least maybe a little bit easier, make the quest maybe a little bit easier for the beginning players. But nah, it is just way too hard for people that are way too in the beginning of the game, literally way too early in the game. So yeah, that is why I'm not a big fan of this update, and that is why it is the bad part of this update actually. And then now, guys, let's get into the ugly part of this update. I think you guys can maybe think what the most ugly part about this update is. It's not about the update itself, it is about the time that it took to release this update. The last update that we had was back in April, which was the quest board update. This released on mid-June. I believe it was like June 14th or something like that. This update took way too long. There was no excuse for why this update took as long as it did. 2 freaking months to update this game. An RNG game, I seriously do not believe it should be taking that long. The devs should be developing their game instead of playing games, because they are seen playing a lot of Roblox games and not developing their game. Honestly, they need to get to work, man. Obviously they did a very good job with this update, but man, I wish they would work harder. The community cares so much for this game, and man, it just seems that they just do not really care anymore, sadly. But if they, once again, I'm gonna say again, the 1st and 3rd of the month, they're promising those updates, and I'm saying it again, if they don't stick to that plan, the community is absolutely gonna be mad. But yeah, it was just very insane how long this update took. And if you guys want to know just how long this update took, go ahead and go to the Souls RNG Discord and go to the Eon 1 update log. This Limbo update was supposed to be released with Eon 1, which released back in November. You heard that correctly, November of 2024. That is when the Limbo update was supposed to be here. It was supposed to come out with Eon 1. Can you imagine how much bigger Eon 1 might have been if Limbo was with it? It would have been absolutely amazing, but they delayed it until June. November to June. How many months is that? That's at least more than half a year waiting for this Limbo update. That is just way too much time. That is unacceptable, man. I mean, at least we have it now, but come on. It took way too long to get this here, man. Here it is, guys. I'm in the update section of their Discord, and it is the Eon 1 update right here. November 10th, 2024 right here. You guys can see the Limbo. The above content is currently unavailable due to an issue. That means it took over 7 months for them to add this content that was supposed to be an Eon 1 into the game. That is just absolute absurdity. But all things aside, guys, I think this update has really changed Souls RNG forever, and definitely for the better, because they finally made an update where you actually have to play the game and do stuff. Now, I just really hope they expand on the Limbo, because again, once you get to the quest that I am right now, Souls RNG just becomes a AFK simulator once again. The Limbo, you're literally AFKing, but in the Limbo. That is pretty much what you have to do right now to complete all these quests. But I really hope they expand on the Limbo and make us be able to do more stuff in the Limbo and make it easier for beginner players. But I think that's going to wrap it up for today's video, guys, and I really hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time.